Hello, happy Wednesday to you. We're going to start with this warm up. I'm going to see if it lets me write. Give me a second. Here we go. Pen. I think it's in red. All right, so Freddie was given 10 pieces of bubble gum on Tuesday. So what do I know? I know that we have 10. On Wednesday, each person that he spoke to him gave him 2 additional pieces. Now, I don't know how many people that he spoke to though, but I know it's 2 per person. So I'm going to do 2x, and it's going to equal a total of 142 pieces. So this is very similar to our y equals mx plus b form. I'm sorry if the pen glitches, but I'm trying my best, where your B is your starting amount and your M is how much you're changing by. In this case, I started with 10 pieces. I'm adding 2 per person, X being the number of people, for a total of 142 pieces. So we're going to go ahead, and we actually don't need to solve this because the directions say to set up an equation, and we did. So this is old. Don't worry about that. We took our quiz yesterday. So today we're going to be moving on to our last thing of the unit. And I think it's the 11th. I'm not sure. Nope, it's the 12th. So don't worry about the date here. So we're going to be comparing functions written in different forms. It's very important that you're taking notes during this process because this is a concept that some people will get very easily, and this is a concept that other people may struggle with. So please make sure that you're taking notes on everything that we're discussing. So the easiest thing to look at is a table. A table will tell you right away what your relationship is. So my goal is to figure out, if I give you X, what the date is, Y, or vice versa. If I give you Y, what is the other person in the date? What would the X be? A table flat out tells you exactly everything that you need to know. So if you have a table, use that first. The second easiest thing to do is to look at a graph, because a graph is like a picture of the relationship. The last and most difficult thing is to use a function. Now, one of the skills is to actually use these 3 components, but another skill is also to understand this year what is the easiest method of math and how to use it appropriately. So one of the learning goals will be understanding the easiest method. If you're choosing function every single time, are you going to get the right answer? Absolutely. You're going to pass the learning goal for actually figuring out the relationship, but you're not going to pass the learning goal of understanding what is the easiest process. Again, part of this year is picking the easiest path. So it's important that you do it in this order: table first, graph second, function third. So if I give you a number inside of your parentheses, like here, that number is going to represent an X value. So in this case, X would be 5. The inside is always X. If X is 5, then our goal is to figure out who Y is. You want to have a relationship when you're done. It's going to be 5, comma, I don't know who Y is because we're not applying this yet. On the other hand, if you look over here at the 30 is outside of the parentheses. It's not inside like this X value. Whenever I give you the outside number, that is the Y value. So in this case, I'm telling you that Y is 30. So therefore, your goal is to figure out what X is. So again, inside is X, outside is Y. That's something that we need to have memorized. So how do I read a table? What you're going to do is, number 1, figure out if the number I give you is an X or if the number I give you is a Y. And then you're going to find the other value in the relationship. So in this case of the table, I'm telling you f of x is 3. So write this down. F of x is 3. That's how you say f parentheses 3. F of 3. And I'm going to ask myself, is this 3 on the inside or outside of the parentheses? And I see that this 3 is on the inside. And the inside is always the x value. So I'm telling you that the x is 3. All right. My goal is to figure out what the y is. That's the question. So we're going to use this table to figure out the other value in the relationship. So I'm going to see if I have an x is 3 on the table. So let's go to the table and let's see if we have a 3 on the x side right here. The table tells me who 3 is in a relationship with. It tells me that 3 is in a relationship with 8. I don't need to do any math. It says it directly on the table what the relationship is. So first question, ask yourself, is the number 3 an x or a y? Insides are x, outsides are y. And then figure out who the other thing in the relationship is. So this one is going to be opposite. I see that the 6 is on the outside. And outside values are always y values. So the first thing I'm going to ask myself, is the 6 an x or a y? It's a y because it's outside. So I know the y is 6. Well, if the y is 6, I have no idea what the x is because those are the people in the relationships, x comma y. So I'm going to see if I can find a y6 on the table. So look at the y side. Don't look at the x side. Y is right here. Y is 6. So that tells me the relationship is 2 comma 6, where 6 is the y, outside number, and x is 2, the inside number. All right, so let's take a look at this. Feel free to pause, fast forward, rewind anytime you need to. I understand that I might be going too fast for some of you guys. I might be going too slow. You might have to revisit the concept because you're writing it down and you thought you got it right and you accidentally did it wrong. That's fine. Just do whatever you need to do, but make sure you're taking notes on every single problem. So in this case, I'm giving you a -8. I'm going to ask myself, is this an x inside or is this a y, which is outside the parentheses? So this -8 is not inside the parentheses. Here's the parentheses. So if the -8 is on the outside, I know it's going to be the y value. So I'm going to write y is -8. I'm going to look at the table to figure out if I can see what the x value is. So I'm going to go to the y side right there. Oh, my first number, my first set of dates. The y here is -8. That is in a relationship with -2. So I have to write it in relationship form, -2, comma -8. All right. The 0 is on the inside. So let's write inside. And I know that insides are x's, outsides are y's. So this is an x value. I'm telling you that the x inside the parentheses is 0. We're going to have to figure out what y is. So let's look at the table and see if we have 0 on the x side. 0 on the x side? Yes, there it is. So that is telling me that 0 is in a relationship with -5. Now, the second easiest thing to do is reading a graph. I'm still going to ask myself the first question, is the number I give you an x or a y? And then we're going to do almost the same thing for the second question. We're going to have to figure out the other part of the relationship, but we're going to have to do it by going to the value on the graph and meeting where the line is. Now, that's not going to make sense until we do it. So check out these examples. So I'm telling you that x right here is 0, right? X is inside the parentheses. So I am telling you x is 0. I want to figure out what y is. It has to be a dot on the line. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over to 0. You're going to have to know how to read graphs. I know that some of you guys struggled on this on the last quiz. So I'm doing a little hint here. Left is negative, right is positive, up is positive, down is negative. So I'm going over 0, that's x, right? X is the first number, over 0, and I need to figure out how many times up or down my y is. So on the graph, starting at 0, 0, you're going to go over 0 and then just drop your line, either go up or down to the graph. In this case, the line is up here. So I need to go up to the line and circle where the point meets my x value. This is 0. Circle where it is. And this one actually tells us what the relationship is already. We have x is 0, y is 5. So you're going to name the point. This point is called 0, 5. Sometimes the points are not named for you. So you're going to have to learn how to read points if you were not successful on that on your last assessment. Let's check out this one. I'm telling you the outside number. The outside is a y value. So I'm telling you that the y is 1. I want to know what the x is. So I'm going to go to the y, and I'm going to go, remember, y is up, down moves. I'm going to go to up because it's a positive 1. And I want to know how many times over I need to go to get to the line. So I'm going to go up to where y is 1. Here it is. And I'm going to go to the line. The line's over here. All right. So I'm going to go here. And you need to make sure that the y value of this dot is 1. If you went to 1 and then here, check out this point. This point here does not have a y value of 1. You didn't go in the right direction. So if I'm telling you to go up, down first, in order to meet the line, you need to go left, right. Whereas in our other problem, I told you the left, right value first. So you had to figure out how many times up or down you needed to go. So in this case, I'm going to go up to 1, positive 1. And I'm going to go over to meet the line. So 6 is dating 1. You have to make sure the dot is on this line here, this linear function, and double check to make sure your y that I gave you right here in the original problem, the y that I gave you was 1, and that the x value matches what it should be on the graph. Let's check this out. It says the outside number. So we're going to check out this outside number. And I'm telling you that the outside number is 7. So y is 7. Remember, that's your up-down number. So I'm telling you, you need to go up 7 and then go over. That's what we need to figure out. How many times do I need to go over to meet the line? So starting at 0, we're going to go up 7, bam. And the line is over to the left. So we're going to go over, and here's where it's going to meet the line. And you'll notice that this dot is not named because it's a normal graph. So you have to name the dot. This dot would be called -3, +7. Remember, your first number is your left, right moves. I went left 3, up 7 to get to this point. Your second dot is your up, down moves. So this point would be at -3, 7. The last way to do this is by looking at a function. Functions will always, always, always work, but they're the longest and the hardest. So what you're going to do is question one's the same. You're going to ask yourself, did Mrs. Alvarez give me an X or did Mrs. Alvarez give me a Y? When you figure that out, you're going to plug it into the problem, into the correct spot, and you're going to solve for the other letter. So if I give you an X, plug it in for X, get rid of the X, and solve for Y. If I give you a Y, plug it in for Y, get rid of the Y, and solve for X. We did this on our last quiz, not yesterday's quiz, but the quiz before that, when we were plugging in numbers, substituting with our evaluating functions. It was our second learning goal on the last quiz. So in this case, I'm telling you f of x is 13. So we're going to plug in the 13 for y because it's on the outside. So I'm telling you that y is 13. I want to know what x is. All right. So we're going to get rid of the y. Remember, when you substitute, you got to get rid of the letter that you're plugging the number in for. And you'll notice that I still have x in the problem. So I got to get x alone. We're going to do some opposite operations. Use a calculator if you need to. Feel free to pause. This is something you should be able to do on your own. That's why I'm not really going over the solving component. We've been solving since the first week of school. So I'm telling you that the x is -1, where the y is 13. All you got to do is put them in a relationship. Let them hug it out. Put them in a parentheses. All right? So these always work, but they take the longest. Here I'm telling you that x is 0 because it's on the inside. I got to figure out what y is. That is my question. So let's get rid of the x, plug in the 0. Remember, when you're doing this, you should be using parentheses if it's with other values. The only reason why I didn't use it for the y is because there's nothing else over here. If it's mixed in with some other values, some other numerical values, you should be using parentheses. -3 times 0 is 0. Sorry about that. 0 and 10 gives you 10. So put it in a relationship. 0 is dating 10. All right, here goes another one. Inside, which means x is -2. Our goal is to figure out what y is. We're going to get rid of the x, plug in a -2 using parentheses. Get a +6 plus 10. Ooh, it did well almost the whole video. Now it wants to glitch. Get a 16. So let's hug it out. -2 in a relationship with +16. All right, last one of this video. I'm going to go ahead and tell you an outside value, which is my y value. I'm telling you the y is -20. I want to know what the x is. That's the question. And again, because the y is by itself, I don't need parentheses. If I had plugged it in on this side with the x, I would have to use parentheses because there's too much going on over here. We're going to do opposite operations. Use your calc if you need to. Again, pause, rewind, fast forward as needed. We're going to hug it out in a relationship. Now, this is a precursor to what we need to do next, and is actually comparing them. All right. So, for example, I would say, hey, this graph and this equation are exactly the same thing, but you need to tell me what's easier to use when I say the x is, for instance, 2. Remember, it is always in the order of table first, easiest, graph second easiest. The function is my last resort if I cannot figure it out from a table and a graph, or there isn't a table and a graph. So in this case, I would go to my graph first, and if I said, okay, f of 2, which means the x, because it's on the inside, is 2, I'm going to go over to where this is the x-axis, where the x is 2. So that would be here. I want to go up to the line because my first number is sideways 2. I want to figure out how many times up, down I need to go to meet the line. So we're going to go up here, and I'm going to name this point 2, 3. That's the y here. So the y is 3. This would be a relationship. The easiest way out of the 2 that I have available to me to figure this out would be to give a graph. And that's only because there's no table there. If there was a table there, I would use the table all day long unless the number wasn't on the table. Sometimes the numbers are not on the table because not all the values are shown on the table. So that is what I need you to have written down in your notes so far. You'll notice that your homework assignment is actually to take notes and to submit them. That will be your first homework assignment. You should have plenty of time in class to do that. Your second homework assignment is to do quiz corrections. If for some reason you got less than a 70% on any of the 3 learning goals, you'll be needing to see me for a reassessment. And we'll get that situated. That will probably be done on Thursday afternoon, in order to get those less than 70s up to a 70%. Please keep in mind that if you're struggling, I need you in before a quiz day. You knew on Monday, on Friday, that there were some mistakes that you were making that you just didn't understand. If you would have come in for extra help, I could have taken care of that really easily in a couple of minutes. Um, so just be in the habit of seeing me before quizzes, not after quizzes, to help us keep those grades up and to reflect the real knowledge that we can show. All right. I hope that you guys are having a great day. Bye.